This video, in its entirety, will be shown to all the staff members at Summit Psychological Services during our monthly staff meeting. The goal of my project is to increase awareness of the amount of paper we use and how much we waste, and then to instigate a solution. As I set about this task, I wanted to replay in my mind how effective our class was in motivating students to become serious ambassadors of change. By the end of the semester, there were no more plastic bottles to be seen in class. Many of my peers had engaged in meaningful personal change projects designed to reduce harm to their environments, from lowering the thermostat, collecting litter, abstaining from the use of one-use water bottles, eating more plant-forward meals, unplugging devices, plogging, that's jogging and picking up roadside litter, using dish soap as sparingly as possible, monitoring sugar consumption, and so the list went on. But there was a specific recipe, which was used in our class for implementing change, and it went as follows. 1. Fall in love with the beauty of our planet. 2. Recognize unity with every living thing. 3. Observe how global change is a real thing which has a devastating impact on our environment. 4. Draw from our world religions the importance of caring for our world as a spiritual practice. And 5. Having fallen in love with this planet, where can we make some impact? As Dr. Kern said, you won't miss anything if you didn't love it in the first place. Trees have been symbols of life, birth, and prosperity. Throughout our Global Faiths class, we have learned and discussed the important value of nature to all of the religions. By helping people to make a connection between their religion and the earth is one of the best ways I can think to help individuals rally to what is really important. Christian scripture references trees 525 times, according to research. The only other living thing mentioned more is humans. The Genesis tree of life, the Revelations tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree that created Jesus' cross are the most important trees in the Bible. Cedars, date palms, fig trees, oak trees, and olive trees are most often referenced in the Bible. In Islam views tree planting as charity, since many people gain from its products or advantages across species. Prophet Muhammad said 14 centuries ago that if a Muslim plants a tree or sows seeds, and then a bird or a person or an animal eats it, it is regarded as a charitable gift for him. Islam also promotes appreciation for trees and their blessings. According to family stories, Prophet Muhammad's counsel about trees and nature examined how ethical behavior really affects the afterlife. This encouraged Muslims to slow down, consume only what they need, and care for the planet. Buddhist values of trees. The Buddhists emphasize ecology and culture links. Buddhist experts say ancient sages saw nature as a life-sustaining factor. The Bodhi fig tree, for example, is also known as the tree of awakening. It's where Buddha was born, awakened and reclaimed as per scripture. Many forests are venerated and established or maintained as part of Buddhism. Hinduism, like Buddhism, views trees as knowledge and enlightenment givers. Hindus revere trees. The Rig Veda forbids cutting them down because they protect living things. The banyan tree, for example, symbolizes life, development, and fertility, as well as the holy trio of Lord Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. Up next is a 2-minute clip from Arts and Culture in Google.com, the 10 trees that have the most religious significance. Recognizing the unity with every living thing. What if we considered that we're inextricably part of the earth and the universe, and that we share in common our origins and creator? What if the trees were as much a part of who I am as I am a part of the trees? Would recognizing our unity change our approach to how we relate to every living thing? What if there is no other, separate from ourselves, and therefore being treated less than or even dominated? What if the only type of existence is one in another? The term ecology is a preferred starting term in the sense that it denotes integrated natural systems within which humans are just one species among many. The word environment, however, frequently implies the conceptual separation of humans from the biophysical world, a separation often driven by economic interests and technological hubris, whose consequences are strongly reverberating in the environmental injustices and climate change impacts we are facing today. How are we to be with the other? how do we orient ourselves? Well, consider all beings as neighbors, not strangers. That we're partners and pilgrims. That we enrich ourselves and one another by thinking of ourselves this way. We find our identity in relationship to others through the other. In other words, it helps define ourselves. And we cannot escape from the reality that we are all interdependent on one another. What's the big deal with a few degrees, we hear some people say. Well, how do we know that this climate change thing is even real? Katharine Hayhoe uses the term global weirding to describe the phenomenon of climate change, and she takes on several climate change arguments in her series Global Weirding. The first is, how do we know this climate change thing is even real? And secondly, what's the big deal with a few degrees? She discusses the enormous impact of a 0.5 to 1 degree change in temperature. It's estimated that if the world warms by 2% rather than 1.5%, it would mean an additional 150 million deaths just due to air pollution, just caused by a warming of 1 or 2 degrees. So how are we going to mobilize people to do something about the climate change? Perhaps drawing from world religions, the importance of caring for our world as a spiritual practice will move us. Our class wasn't just about climate weirding and change. That would have been a dreadful place to land. If all we do is describe the water while we're drowning, we're not going to have much impact on the outcome. Let's start with the world's largest religion. Prothero, in his book, God is Not One, cautions us not to jump prematurely into the idea of all religions lead up to the same mountain. In fact, he states that our failure to recognize the multiplicity of world religions has driven us further apart rather than closer together. However, systematically working through the texts about different religions, I can see how many of the ethical principles derived from distinct beliefs and doctrines can converge to create interfaith dialogues about the need for a spiritual and not a human solution to the global change crisis. Here are some of the shared ethical principles which stand out to me. So now, having fallen in love with the beauty of our planet and recognizing our unity with every living thing, observing how serious the issue is with climate change, and drawing from world religions as to the importance of caring for our world as a spiritual practice, I chose to focus on one particular problem, and that's the problem with paper. In 40 years, global paper use has increased 400%, with the average American consuming over 700 pounds of paper per year. The US publishes 24 billion newspapers, 350 million periodicals, and 2 billion books annually. Pulp and paper use about 4% of the world's energy, making it the 5th largest consumer. The US recycled almost 50 million tons of paper in 2021, matching the greatest rate ever at 68%. But paper still accounts approximately for 40% of US waste, despite these recycling efforts. Despite having only 4.25% of the world's population, America uses 30% of its paper supply. To meet worldwide demand, paper production exceeds 300 million metric tons per year. Perhaps more people should be reading e-books. When you include paper and cardboard, this amount exceeds 400 million. Paper manufacture in the US and Canada releases 10% of fine particulate matter, a very dangerous air pollutant. The pulp and paper industry is the 5th greatest energy consumer, using 4% of global energy. Today, almost 50% of global industrial logging is used for paper production. In 2018, 422 million metric tons of paper goods were produced worldwide. And globally, there's enough toilet paper consumed every 10 minutes to go around the world. The worldwide paper towel market was $13,900 million in 2020, and it's expected to be $19,290 million by 2027. Global paper towel use generates 254 million tons of trash annually. That's 3,000 tons a day, or 51,000 trees removed. The US household paper market was $6.2 billion in 2020 and is expected to rise 4.6% a year between 2022 and 2028. The number of Americans using paper towels was recorded at 321.87 million in 2020, and it's going up to 331 million by 2024. If we just save 3 paper towels per household in the United States, that would equal 120,000 tons less waste, and it would save $4.1 million in waste processing costs. All right, let's have a look at paper use and abuse at work. Most businesses rely on paper. A fire or a flood that destroys a paper-based documentation would bankrupt almost 70% of enterprises in 3 weeks. American corporations spend about $120 billion on printed forms annually, most of which expire in 3 months. Almost half of office printed papers are thrown away anyway. On average, organizations lose 7.5% of their paper documents, and that costs them about $122 to find. Lost document searches take American corporations up to 4 weeks per year. However, the United States has over 4 trillion papers. Business paper use is rising by about 22% annually, which doubles paper expenditures every 3.3 years. The average US worker uses 10,000 sheets of paper annually, and there's a maintenance of 12 filing cabinets normally requires 1 extra staff. Email and filing cabinet searches can take 30 to 40% of employees' time and monthly filing costs of $20. A 4-drawer filing cabinet holds about 11,000 documents. It occupies 9 square feet and costs $1,500 annually. Companies spend $125 every misfiled document in a filing cabinet. Our average document is copied 9 to 11 times. In Canada and America, pulp and paper is the 3rd largest air, water, and land polluter. Over 100 million kilograms of harmful pollutants are released annually. The US and Canadian paper sector releases 10% of fine particulate matter, which damages the respiratory system and causes major health problems. Paper production creates acid rain, causing nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides, and climate-changing carbon dioxide. The US releases 66% of its paper manufacturing waste into the air, 10% into the water, and 24% into landfills. For paper, the US takes down 36 million trees annually. In the United States, 1 billion trees of paper are discarded annually. About 15 billion trees are cut down worldwide each year, and most of the paper made from them goes to books and textbooks. And finally, 16 billion cups of coffee in 2006 required 6.5 million trees. That's 4 billion gallons of water, 253 million pounds of garbage. The average American uses 7 trees every year for paper, wood and other things. 2 billion trees per year. Paper manufacture annually destroys 18 million acres of forest. That's 20 football fields per minute. A Wales-sized forest is needed to supply the United Kingdom with their paper needs. There's so much more to saving trees than saving trees because they're beautiful. They're also places for habitat for our wildlife. They promote community. They keep the cities cool. They improve our health. Everybody knows that exposures to trees has a really relaxing effect on humans and reduces their stress. They combat climate change. One tree can sequester more than 1 ton of carbon dioxide in its lifetime. Planting trees and preventing deforestation are key measures in reducing the human impact on global climate change. Trees remove harmful pollution from the air and forested watersheds, and they help keep our drinking water clean. Well, let's start our little tour in the storage room. Oh my gosh, okay. So, first obvious, huge box of envelopes for when we send out all our bills, and Lord knows what's in that, but there's a lot of paper. Plastic, brilliant, but that's not what I'm doing my project on. More paper, more paper, paper. Oh, brochures, that's a good one. Okay, so now we're in the office admin room, but this guy's not too bad. He does do a lot on the computers, but oh my gosh, look. Why don't we even do banking electronically? Nope, we've got checks. Well, it goes without saying that we have lots and lots of paper that's in the form of books. And even more books. Okay, so I would get totally into trouble, but this is my partner's in business's desk, which, yep, that, and he was born in an era where certificates were really important, so I guess not too much paper got used up on those, but look at this, really, really. This is inside his desk drawer. I don't think he's ever looked at them because he hasn't worked in the office because he's retiring. So he hasn't worked in the office since pre-COVID. Oh my goodness, take a look at these. These are all the files in the other desk drawer. Imagine if none of these were on paper and they were all on PDFs. Well, of course, he also has the biggest bookcase. Wait, more paper. This is hidden behind the office door. Okay, so this person gets full marks. I can't see any paper. Oh, there's one sheet. Yep, this person gets must have everything on the computer. So folks, I don't know why we've even got magazines since nobody ever reads them and they're all on their iPhones. More books. More books. More paper. Seriously, lots and lots of books. Of course, we could have them all on Kindle now. That would be a good way to deal with things. And even more books. Who keeps buying all these books? And here is the devil itself, a printer. Wah, wah, wah. And just, why do we have flyers? Because all of this is on our website. So this is just completely embarrassing. So this is part of the front office's papers, and there is a lot of it. Everything is on paper. Paper! Lots and lots and lots of paper. Paper in the boxes up there. More paper. Don't even want to look at this one. Oh, I can't open it. Okay, so this room is the greatest offender. This is the filing room. Everything in here is pretty much paper. See, these are all the envelopes that we use to send out bills. Up here, more envelopes. Letterhead, all the paper. Okay, more envelopes, good Lord. Down here, more envelopes. Paper. Folders. Aha. Paper, more paper. And then if I slowly move around here, here is the biggest culprit of them all. Look at the size of this guy. More around here. Uh-oh, more paper. All of this is paper. What's behind the cupboard doors? Guess what? Coloured paper. This is crazy. I've never thought about it like this before. Oh, look, we all have boxes. In boxes with paper. Paper. More paper. And more paper. What's in this one? Paper and brochures. Great. Oh, that's not too bad. One box of paper. And over here, more paper, but it's pretty colours. That's the filing room. So finally, here's the last phase of my project, and that's the solution to the paper use at Summit Psychological Services. It's rather detailed because I'm going to use it actually with the staff to try and encourage them to be motivated as I am to make this change. It probably involve quite a lot, especially introduce. There are lots of benefits of going paperless, which are some of the pros and cons which I'll be presenting to the SPS team. But one of them is definitely increasing efficiency. For example, they would reduce their note-taking from 5 to 10 minutes a session to as little as 1 to 3 minutes. Over a day, this could give therapists up to an hour of extra time, perhaps 3 to 5 hours a week, or 10 to 15 hours per month. It also ensure that notes are consistent with industry guidelines. The savings to paper and storage are significant. Cost savings, well, paperless systems have high startup costs, but long-term savings. And there should be some significant gains in productivity and administration costs. Emailing the client bills would save approximately $450 a month on postage, stamps, and stationery. Also, much more security and compliance because everything is encrypted and there's lots of restrictions for access based on people being able to have a breach of data. So HIPAA compliance is much easier. We'll be able to read notes, the therapist's notes, because oftentimes they're pretty illegible. And all of this technology will link up with other systems. Over a couple of years, we should reduce the off-site storage facility because It currently is $100 a month or $1,200 a year. Overall, just histories, test results, vital information, everything will be simpler to access and share. There's other paper-saving initiatives that we could employ in the office other than just the electronic billing system. We could create a paperless office policy, encouraging recycling and reuse. Have a look at all our reusable cups and utensils in the kitchen instead of using paper goods, and install hand dryers and tea towels instead of paper towels. We could replace paper copies with cloud-based storage. And from now on, we should consider buying ebooks and magazines. We could use digital apps. There's always an app for that. And e-signature software. Actually, we do have that. We use DocuSign. We could move our finances to include more digital uses. For example, no more paper checks. Our marketing could become paperless, increase our use of digital marketing, for example, Constant Contact, which we use now, but we could definitely increase using. And also buy reusable office supplies. Concentrate on durable, reusable, recycled, and high-quality materials. And now, let's see the impact we've had on our trees. First of all, we should reduce all the calls to the front desk because there'll be less message taking. We should reduce the monthly use of paper by at least a full ream of quality letterhead printed paper. We should reduce by 1 full ream of plain paper per month and 1 to 2 boxes of file folder storage by doing screen scheduling, and 1 full ream of plain paper for every 10 clients that we introduce to the practice. All tracking sheets could be handled electronically, so that would reduce the cost of colored paper to the tune of about 1 ream of paper every 6 months. Electronic client progress notes could save as much as 1 ream of plain paper a week. And we'd also be cutting down on the HICFA forms.